Have you ever looked back and realized the most important lessons came decades too late? At 89, there's a strange clarity that sets in, where things you once brushed off now feel glaringly obvious. And if you're somewhere between 55 and 80, you might already feel that quiet tug inside. The one that asks, is there something I'm missing before it's too late? In this video, we're going to walk through 10 harsh truths that I've come to know all too well in my later years. Truths I wish someone had whispered to me when I was 60. Some of them are about your health, others about your relationships, and a few cut right into the heart of what it means to grow older with grace, strength, and dignity. These aren't meant to scare you, but they might just wake you up. Because no one tells you what aging really demands of you, not until you're already too far down the road to adjust. But here's the good news. If you're hearing this now, there's still time to live differently. Stay with me until the end, because one or two of these might just flip a switch you didn't even know was there. And trust me, if I had heard this when I was younger, I would have done a few things very differently. Now let's get started. Truth 1, time is a ruthless accountant. You won't feel time slipping away. That's the trick. It doesn't come with a loud alarm or flashing sign. It creeps quietly, politely through your habits, through your routines, and through every "I'll do it tomorrow" you keep stacking up. At 60, you think you still have time. And to be fair, in many ways you do. But what most folks don't realize is that time doesn't just take your days, it takes your choices. Little by little, it trims down your options. And by the time you hit your late 70s or 80s, you're not choosing between 3 or 4 paths anymore. You're just hoping to walk steadily down the one that's left. I've seen friends put off travel, reconciliation, hobbies, health checkups, and even joy itself, thinking they had more time. They didn't. And I've done it too. What hurts most isn't that those chances are gone. It's that I let them expire without even noticing. Let me give you a simple example. I had a friend, Walter. He was 68 when he told me he wanted to write a book, something to leave for his grandkids. He had the stories, the passion, the experience, but every time we talked, he'd say, "I'll start next month." By the time he hit 78, his eyesight was going, his energy was low, and he couldn't concentrate the way he used to. The stories never made it to paper. He didn't run out of ideas. He ran out of time to carry them out. And now, no one in his family knows the depth of who he really was. When I say time is a ruthless accountant, I mean it keeps the books tight. It remembers every delay and collects the interest. And it always closes the ledger, whether you're ready or not. So if there's something inside you, a trip, a letter, a conversation, a change, do not put it off. Time is kind only to those who don't waste it. Truth 2, health doesn't collapse, it erodes quietly. Most people think health problems arrive like a lightning bolt, a heart attack, a diagnosis, a fall. But in truth, most of the damage starts years before the symptoms ever show. It's quiet, it's patient, and it feeds off neglect. At 60, you can still eat what you want, skip a few walks, shrug off a little joint pain, and tell yourself you'll get serious next year. But here's the brutal part. Every year you delay, the foundation gets weaker, and you won't notice it in your day-to-day. Not at first, but slowly your energy fades. Your sleep gets lighter. Your digestion starts acting up. You feel heavier, not just in body, but in spirit. And eventually, one day, it all catches up. Not in theory, but in real-life ways. You hesitate before bending down. You avoid stairs. And you start organizing your life around your limitations instead of your freedom. I remember Margaret, a friend from church. She was 63 when she started feeling tired during our weekly walks. Said it was just age. She ignored it for years. Then one day, she tripped going up a curb and broke her hip. That one fall turned into a year of rehab, 2 surgeries, and the end of her independence. And it all started with just a little tired. We think these changes are small, but they're messages. Your body always whispers before it screams. And if you don't listen early, you'll be forced to later on someone else's terms. And it's not just physical. Your emotional and mental health ride shotgun with your body. Sleep, movement, what you eat, what you ignore, they all add up. The difference between a resilient 85-year-old and a struggling one? It often started in their 60s. The harsh truth is this: your body isn't a machine with a sudden off switch. It's more like a garden. And what you fail to tend in your 60s becomes overgrowth and rot in your 80s. The weeds you let grow now will be the ones you have to fight through, just to walk, to sleep, to enjoy your days. So start paying attention, not to the big, scary problems, but to the small, annoying ones. The creaky knees, the bloating after dinner, the way you feel after sitting too long. They're not inconveniences. They're invitations. Answer them now while you still can. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 2 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Truth 3. Loneliness is not cured by company, it's cured by connection. You can be in a crowded room and still feel completely alone. I know because I've been there, at birthday parties, family dinners, even in my own home, with voices around me and still a quiet ache sitting in my chest. That's the kind of loneliness no one warns you about. The kind that has nothing to do with how many people are near you, and everything to do with how well you're truly seen. In your 60s, you might still be working, raising grandkids, meeting friends for coffee, getting invited to gatherings. It's easy to mistake that activity for intimacy. But the harsh truth is, just because you're busy doesn't mean you're connected. Conversations that stay on the surface eventually leave you feeling empty. Over time, if you don't nurture something deeper, honest conversations, mutual vulnerability, a space where you can be real, your emotional muscles begin to atrophy. By your 80s, it becomes harder to reach out, harder to open up, and for many, harder to even remember what real connection felt like. I think of Richard, an old friend of mine, always surrounded by people, always the life of the party. But one day after his wife passed, he said to me, "I don't think anyone really knows me anymore. Maybe they never did." And the silence that followed hit me harder than anything. We wait too long to build the kind of relationships that matter. We get caught up in small talk, in politeness, in the illusion that we're doing fine. But the older you get, the more you need at least one person who knows the real you. The stories, the regrets, the hopes, the quirks, all of it. Without that, loneliness sets in not as a moment, but as a state of being. And don't make the mistake of thinking it'll fix itself later. You won't just find your people someday. You build them, slowly. And that building needs to start now, while you're still energetic enough to reach out, to forgive, to share, to invest time. Connection doesn't come from being liked. It comes from being understood. And in my experience, very few people reach their 80s with a full heart, unless they started clearing space for real connection decades earlier. Call someone today. Share something real. Be willing to go beyond "how are you" and into "how is your heart." It might feel awkward at first, but I promise it's the only kind of company that lasts. Truth 4. Your children will live their lives, not yours. One of the hardest truths to swallow as you get older is realizing that the children you raised, the ones you poured your soul into, will eventually walk paths that don't include you. And it doesn't mean they don't love you. It just means they're human, just like we were at their age. In your 60s, especially if your kids are grown and building their own lives, there's this temptation to hold on tighter, to offer more advice, to stay involved, sometimes even to sacrifice your own needs, thinking it will earn closeness or gratitude later. But here's what you learn at 89. Your children don't remember how much you gave up for them. They remember how present you were, with joy, with peace, with genuine interest in your own life. I've seen so many folks my age build their entire emotional well-being around their adult children, waiting for visits, hoping for calls, taking care of grandkids without ever setting boundaries. And when those children inevitably choose partners, careers, or cities that don't revolve around them, it feels like betrayal. But it's not betrayal. It's life. Your kids don't owe you their lives. You gave them life so they could go out and live it. That was always the deal. I remember Alice, a woman I met in a retirement community years ago. She'd spent decades raising 4 kids, running herself ragged to make their lives easier. But when she turned 80, she said, "I realize I don't even know who I am outside of being their mother." And that realization broke her. Not because her children were ungrateful, but because she never built a life that belonged to her. If you're constantly putting your own joy on pause for the sake of your children, what you're really doing is abandoning yourself. And in the long run, that doesn't create closeness. It creates quiet resentment on both sides. Your children will make their own choices. Some will align with your values. Some won't. That's not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of how life unfolds. What you can control is how you live the years you have left. Build friendships. Explore hobbies. Take care of your health. Love again if you're lucky. Let your children witness you living, not waiting. Because when they see that, they don't pull away. And most importantly, they're freed from the weight of being the center of your happiness. Truth 5. You can't earn back missed moments with your spouse. This one hits hard because by the time most people realize it, it's too late. When you're in your 60s, you think there's still time to patch things up. Take that trip together, sit on the porch and just be. But the truth is, time doesn't slow down for relationships either. And every day you choose silence over kindness, distraction over attention, or resentment over understanding, you're spending something you'll never get back. I've seen marriages that looked fine on the outside completely unravel in the later years. Not because of some huge betrayal, but because of years and years of quiet neglect. Not listening, not laughing, just going through the motions while life passed by. And you don't feel it at first. You tell yourself, we're just busy, or things will get better after this phase. But the phases keep coming. And before you know it, the kids are grown, the noise is gone, and it's just the two of you sitting at opposite ends of the couch, wondering how you ended up so far apart. There was a man I knew named Harold. He lost his wife at 82. During the funeral, he stood beside me and said, "I would give anything just to have one more dinner where I actually looked at her instead of the television." That stayed with me. Because those missed glances, missed compliments, missed touches, they add up. We always think there's more time to repair, more time to express, more time to love better. But there isn't. And the harshest part is, even if your spouse is still here, the version of them you remember might not be. Time changes us. Illness changes us. Grief, forgetfulness, even just fatigue, they take pieces of the person you knew. So if you still have the chance, use it. Say what needs to be said. Let go of the petty fights. Sit a little closer. Ask how they're really doing. Surprise them with small kindnesses. Take their hand during the quiet parts of the day. Because in the end, those are the moments that will fill the silence after they're gone. And if you're already alone, maybe you lost them, or maybe the relationship simply faded. Don't close your heart. It's not too late to seek connection, to build new companionships, to love again in a different way. But the first step is being honest about what was lost and what can still be saved. The truth is, we don't run out of love. We run out of chances to show it. Don't wait for some big moment. Make the small ones count, because once they're gone, they don't come back. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 5 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now, let's move forward. Truth 6. The body keeps the score and sends the bill later. You might feel strong now, capable. Like skipping that walk today or grabbing fast food one more time won't matter in the grand scheme of things. But the truth, your body is keeping track. Not in a dramatic one-time collapse, but like a quiet accountant. Logging every choice, every stress, every shortcut you thought you got away with. In your 60s, you still have time to pivot. You can undo more than you realize. Rebuild strength, reset habits, rethink how you treat the only home you'll live in forever. But if you don't, your 70s and 80s will show it in ways you can't ignore. The slow mornings, the aching joints, the foggy thinking, the medications that start to multiply. And here's what most people get wrong. They wait until something breaks. But by then, you're not making changes. You're managing damage. The time to act isn't when your doctor raises the red flag. It's now, when your body is still whispering, through stiffness, through tiredness, through that hunch in your back or that shortness of breath on stairs. I remember Charlie, he was 65 and laughed at the idea of doing stretches. Said, "That's for yoga, folks." By 72, he couldn't get out of a chair without help. Years of avoiding movement, letting his muscles shrink and stiffen. He thought he had time. He didn't. And it's not just about physical pain. The erosion hits your confidence, your independence, your joy. It changes how you show up in the world. When standing is hard, you go out less. When digestion's off, you eat less. When you're always tired, you stop laughing. That's how aging steals your spirit, not in one sweep, but in 100 small retreats. But here's the hopeful part. Your body responds fast when you treat it with respect. You don't have to run marathons. You don't have to become a saint in the kitchen. You just have to move more than you sit. Eat food your grandmother would recognize. Breathe deeply. Drink water like it matters. Stretch like you're making room for your future self. And most of all, don't wait for motivation. It rarely shows up on its own. What you need is discipline and a little vision of who you want to be 10, 15, 20 years from now. The habits you build in your 60s are the ones that carry or crush you in your 80s. If your future self could talk to you right now, I promise they'd say, take care of me. I'm counting on you. Truth 7. Most of what you feared never happened, but worrying still stole decades. Looking back, I can honestly say that most of the things I lost sleep over never came true. The money problems I thought would ruin me, they passed. The awkward conversations I dreaded, they were over in minutes. The future I tried to control with fear, it arrived in ways I could never have predicted, mostly gentler than I imagined. But that didn't stop me from worrying. No, I spent years, decades, rehearsing worst-case scenarios in my head, playing out arguments that never happened, anticipating disasters that never arrived. And do you know what that really did? It robbed me of peace. Worry is sneaky like that. It tricks you into thinking you're being responsible or prepared, but most of the time it's just fear in disguise. And the more you let it run the show, the more it trains your brain to expect danger where there is none. I used to worry about my kids constantly, who they'd marry, how they'd manage their finances, what would happen if they made the wrong career move. But you know what? They figured it out. Not always perfectly, but enough. And all my late-night pacing didn't help them. It only wore me down. We believe that worrying somehow protects us or the people we love. But it doesn't. What protects us is wisdom, action, and letting go of what we can't control. Worry does none of that. It just chews through the hours of your life without ever offering a solution. And here's the worst part. Worry is a thief that steals from both ends. It takes away your today and it taints your memories. Looking back, I realize I missed some of the most beautiful chapters of my life because I was too preoccupied, bracing for something bad. You might be worried now about retirement, health, relationships, the state of the world. I get it. But ask yourself, how much of that can you truly control? And how much are you rehearsing pain that might never arrive? The peace you're searching for doesn't come when everything is perfect. It comes when you realize that most of what you fear either won't happen or won't matter as much as you think. So please don't let anxiety write your story. Don't give your precious years away to imagine tragedies. Breathe deeper. Take walks. Laugh sooner. Trust that the same strength that got you through every hard day before will carry you again, because it will. It always has. Truth 8. Your career won't hold your hand when you're sick or scared. For decades, we pour ourselves into our work. We show up early, stay late, push through holidays, aches, and even grief, thinking it's what strong people do. And in some ways, that dedication shapes who we are. But eventually you reach a point where the applause fades, the emails stop, and the only thing left echoing in the room is the question, was it worth it? When you're in your 60s, you might still be chasing that next goal, the promotion, the prestige. And there's nothing wrong with striving. But don't mistake your job for your identity. Because one day, sometimes suddenly, sometimes slowly, it ends. And when it does, it won't mourn you. I've watched countless friends retire thinking they'd be missed more than they were. Some had their offices cleaned out the same week they left. Others trained their replacements only to find they'd become forgotten by the very team they once built. It's not cruelty, it's just the nature of things. The machine keeps moving. I knew a man named Gerald, 35 years with the same company, missed birthdays, canceled vacations, always the first one in and the last to leave. When he was diagnosed with cancer at 73, he said, "I thought the company would send someone to check in, not even a card." That moment crushed him more than the diagnosis did. Jobs give us purpose, yes, but they were never meant to be the whole story. And when health issues come, or grief, or aging, or even just loneliness, it's not your title that comforts you. It's people, it's your relationships, it's how you feel when you wake up without a meeting on your calendar. And if you've spent your entire adult life measuring your worth through productivity, retirement can feel like exile. But it doesn't have to. If you start now, building friendships, nurturing your interests, creating routines outside of work, you'll soften the landing. You'll find yourself still valuable, still engaged, still you, even without the badge or the paycheck. So keep working if you enjoy it. Keep building if it brings you life. But don't ignore the deeper investments, because when life gets quiet, it's not your job that will sit beside you. It's your peace of mind. And that's who you want to show up when things get hard, not your resume. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 8 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now, let's move forward. Truth 9. If you don't downsize your ego, life will do it for you. You spend the first half of your life trying to prove yourself to your parents, your peers, your boss, maybe even your own reflection. And that drive isn't always a bad thing. It gets you through school, helps you build a career, raises your kids, builds a name. But here's the truth, ego only helps until it starts hurting. The older you get, the more you realize that pride, if left unchecked, becomes a prison. It stops you from asking for help. It keeps you from admitting when you're wrong. And most dangerously, it convinces you that needing others makes you weak. That illusion, it'll cost you more than you know. I've seen men in their 80s fall and refuse to tell anyone. Women who couldn't carry groceries anymore, but wouldn't ask for assistance. People who'd rather suffer silently than admit they couldn't drive safely or manage the stairs. They didn't want pity. They wanted dignity. But what they didn't see is that dignity doesn't come from pretending to be unbreakable. It comes from knowing when to lean. I remember Frances. She was 76 when her doctor told her she needed a walker. She resisted for months, saying, "I'm not that old yet." But then she fell outside the pharmacy and broke her wrist. That walker, she needed it long before the fall, but her pride pushed it off. And in the end, it wasn't her body that betrayed her. It was her unwillingness to accept help. Your ego might whisper, "They'll see me as weak." But the truth is, strength isn't about who needs the least help. It's about who knows when to ask for it. There's incredible power in saying, "I can't do this alone," and even more in allowing others to show up for you. And this goes beyond physical ability. It's in how you handle apologies, how you process grief, how you accept changes in your role, your relevance, your influence. The world isn't trying to humiliate you as you age. It's inviting you into a new kind of grace. But if you keep measuring yourself by your past achievements or how self-sufficient you used to be, aging will feel like punishment. The ego fights for the spotlight, but life in its later stages rewards humility. Let people help. Let your identity evolve. Let yourself be seen not as the one who used to do it all, but as the one wise enough to know what truly matters now. Because the smaller your ego becomes, the more space there is for peace, connection, and growth. The very things that make aging rich instead of empty. Truth 10. You won't feel old at 60, but you'll regret waiting until you do to act like time matters. Here's the strange thing about aging. It doesn't announce itself with a clear warning. You don't wake up one morning and say, "Well, I'm officially old now." No, it's subtle. At 60, you might feel just a little slower, maybe a bit stiffer, but overall, you're still moving, still thinking sharp, still in control. That's what makes this truth so dangerous. Because when you feel that good, it's easy to tell yourself there's still time to get serious about your health, your relationships, your dreams. But what no one tells you is how fast 60 turns into 70 and 70 into 80. You think you're coasting, but in reality, the terrain is changing beneath your feet. You don't feel old until one day you do. Until the climb gets steeper, the aches settle in longer, the energy runs out faster. And by then, many of the doors you assumed would stay open forever start to close. I remember a neighbor, Ron. At 62, he kept saying he'd take his wife on a cross-country road trip once he felt retired enough. By 68, she was diagnosed with early dementia. By 70, she didn't know his name. They never took that trip. Not because they didn't want to, but because they waited. The truth is, 60 is a turning point. It's the last chapter where most of your faculties are still intact, your options are wide open, and your body still responds to change. It's the perfect time to realign. But most people don't. They wait for a wake-up call. And when it comes, it's not always gentle. I've heard it too many times. "I wish I had done this sooner. I didn't realize how quickly things would change. I thought I had more time." So if you're in your 60s or even your 70s and you feel like you're still in good shape, good. That's your sign to act, not to delay, but to prioritize. To build the habits, the memories, the resilience that will carry you into your later years with dignity instead of desperation. Don't wait until you feel old to start living like your time matters. Because by the time it feels urgent, you may already be racing the clock. Final thoughts. Looking back on these 10 truths, one thing becomes clear. Aging doesn't just happen to the body. It happens to your priorities, your relationships, your memories, and the way you see the world. And the earlier you recognize that, the more power you have to shape your later years into something rich, not just long. What stood out to you the most? Was it the quiet erosion of health? The slow drift in marriage? The trap of building your whole identity around your job or your kids? Whatever it was, hold on to it. Let it settle. And more importantly, do something with it. You're not too late. Not even close. Whether you're 60, 70, or edging toward 80, you still have time to live with more intention, more awareness, and more care for what actually matters. Because none of these truths are meant to scare you. They're here to free you, to remind you that you're not powerless. You're just in a chapter that asks for a different kind of strength. So start today. Make one small change. Reach out to one person. Forgive one grudge. Take one walk. Eat one better meal. Say one honest thing you've been holding in for too long. Life won't give you back what's been lost, but it will reward what you begin now, with clarity, with connection, and with peace. Thank you for joining us today. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share one thing you learned today and how you plan to use it in your life. Your thoughts are important to us, so don't hesitate to share them. Reading your comments gives us great motivation and encouragement. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.